My father often told me that on the highway of life, I was walking on the shoulder. I found an answer to that. Whether you're speeding at 100 miles an hour or walking on the side, both will get to the same destination. It's only a matter of time, and life gives that to you. A wise person once told me that if you fall, the only important thing is to get back on your feet. After my psychosis, I got up at the bottom of a staircase. Each step up required perseverance, work, willpower. I had to overcome challenges to go back to a normal life. When the doctor told me I had schizophrenia, I lost my desire to fight, my happiness. I became a puppet. I was mostly because of my medication, but I got used to pills. Sadly, the harm was already done. I was an empty shell, solitary, interested by nothing. This is what led me to the loss of my studio flat. I lost my freedom, my independence, my self-esteem. I ended up in a group residence. There I started over from scratch. I spent 2 years in that group residence, much to my regret. There I learned that the illness makes us vulnerable, fragile, that we have to care a lot for ourselves. There everybody had their little injuries. I was far from the best. I woke up at 4 in the afternoon. I smoked cigarettes. I drank coffee. I ate. I smoked a few joints. I watched TV. I went to bed at 2 in the morning. But because drugs don't fit well with the illness, I hallucinated after smoking one. That's the last time I smoked. Since the blow I received when I learned I had schizophrenia, laziness was stuck on me. Even now, I have to not let myself slide into the pleasure of idleness. Each week, I had a meeting with my counselor. Their progress was not great at all. I registered to activities, but because I didn't care much, I never went. I was often lamenting over my fate. It was my epiphany. I felt vulnerable and powerless in front of that situation, but one day I believed it was going to change because of a little help. During an important meeting with my shrink, my counselor, and my social worker, they got me with my back to the wall. An ultimatum. I had to do something, or to be sent in a place worse than the one I was in. So it was either the day hospital or hell. And believe me, to me, the day hospital is a real joke. Much to my regret, I accepted the day hospital, but I didn't have the choice. Before, I took 2 weeks off at my mom's and my sister's in Sept-Îles in order to pass the first step towards success, get up in the morning and go to sleep at night. It was my salvation. Living in the day is very important to begin things well. As an encouragement, I could see my mom and my sister before they went to work. Back in Montreal, I started the day hospital. It was very difficult because I hate the hospital. Then I started to get involved in an activity center for people with mental illnesses. I registered for a season to not go back to my bad habits. Every Saturday I did my cleaning, my washing. I was starting to get things in hand. It was a time to change things within myself. I was more conscious of the world around me and of my abilities. The world is constantly evolving, but during 3 years, I thought of myself as an island, living by counting the seas, and suddenly I became conscious of the immense ocean around me. I saw opportunities to be seized. I started to adapt myself to those radical changes that lasted for 6 months. After, I was ready for an unbelievable thing. I returned to employment. so I decided to get training as an industrial painter. It lasted 6 months. It was a way to get back into shape. Handiwork, 40 hours per week. My week started at 4 in the morning. I woke up. At 8, I started working. At 4, I went back home. At 5:30, I ate my supper and prepared lunch. At 7, I took my shower and went to bed. I did my chores assiduously. My lifestyle was changing because I had money. I went to the cinema in the weekend and watched films with my friends. It was a great life. I became better. I found my place in the world. I was speaking out. I trusted myself. But sadly, after my paid training, I didn't find work. So hello unemployment. This is when I decided to get my own flat. I made a request to my social worker. It worked. I also organized myself some training as a security agent. On September 15th, I started my training, and on October 15th, I moved to a supervised apartment. There I was a good schoolboy. I liked the group, and I had a good relation with my colleagues, but I was never in my flat, except on Saturdays, when I did my cleaning, my washing, and my groceries. On Sundays, I studied, saw my friends, and cooked for the week. I liked school. Sadly, all good things must end. I started my night internship, and, sadly, I was not hired afterwards, so I got on welfare. This is when I started to question things. I was in a critical situation. I was broke, so I chose simplicity. I didn't do the groceries every week. I went to NAA, a food bank. For the rest, I went to the dollar store and did a little grocery to survive. I went to see a career advisor every week. He told me that my ideal job was to work as a salesman. I returned to faith. I went to church every second Sunday. I started to read books about spirituality and meditation. I started writing lyrics for songs and poems. But time for change arrived. I did some volunteering and this little film. And after, I'll go back to employment because it's time for me to work. Future is calling me.